After having been part of 4 companies that have been acquired, 2 of which I co-founded, after running M&A to go look at multiple companies in the MarTech space and then go acquire them, in this video, I'm going to walk you through the 3 stages that you need to know about the startup acquisition process. And even if you never want to sell your company or you're going through a process now, either way, if you watch till the end, having options for an exit, having acquirers that are interested in your company is always good for optionality. So if you watch till the end of the video, I'll teach you which activities to focus on early on so you always have optionality around getting an exit even if you don't want to sell the company. Intro. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Unstoppable. I'm TK, author of the book, How to Punch the Sunday Jitters in the Face, entrepreneur and angel investor. On this channel, I help startup founders, business owners, and entrepreneurs build out an unstoppable strategy so you can be successful in your life and your business. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon because I drop an episode every single Sunday to help you become unstoppable. If you're a startup founder, entrepreneur, business owner, then at some point in your career, you will be going through the startup acquisition process. Whether you want to sell your company or not, having acquirers that are interested in buying your company is always a good optionality piece to have as you're building out your business. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the 3 stages that you absolutely need to know in navigating this startup acquisition process. Now, in a prior video, I talked about how to actually build out an exit strategy. You don't need to watch it here right now. You can watch it after. I'll include a link to it down below. But the most important part about that video is I covered a key thing around how to actually go about building out a good exit strategy. Now, the thing about an exit strategy, the core piece of it is to know who the likely acquirers are in your space and who the people are that are involved in there. That's where step 1 comes in. And if you're excited about learning about the 3 stages on how to actually navigate the startup acquisition process, go ahead and hit the like button and let's get started. So once you've built out your exit strategy, and again, you can check out that video later, not important right now. The first stage of this whole startup acquisition process, which starts super early, even well before anyone is ever interested in even buying your company, is to actually build relationships. Now, when you're building these relationships, there's 3 key roles who you have to focus on so that you can understand and forge those inroads into the potential acquirers. The first is the CEO or the leader of the business unit. This is the person that owns the whole P&L of the company or the specific division that would go and acquire your company at some point down the line if it really matched up. The second one is the head of product or the chief product officer. This is the person that's responsible for owning the vision of that company, owning the vision and the strategy for the space that you're both in, and is responsible for figuring out what do they build in their own roadmap, who do they partner with, and who do they go buy. And then lastly, the third piece is the corp dev person. This is the person that is literally paid to make sure that they constantly know all the key players in the space and get coffee with the key people so they can forge a thesis on how they can expand the footprint of the company through acquisitions. Now, even before you're even thinking about selling the company, it's good to forge relationships with the key people in your space, especially these 3 roles, because even if you're not selling or you don't want to sell, it helps you understand where they're going with their product and their company and their customers. And it'll always open up opportunities for partnering, for integrating into them, or at some point getting bought by them. Now, once you've established these relationships, it doesn't just stop just after you've had that coffee. The key here is that you're constantly meeting with them on a yearly basis or a quarterly basis, depending on how close you guys are. So you're constantly comparing notes on where the space is going, how the vision is evolving, and whether things are coming together. This is where step 2 comes in. Step 2 is where you're negotiating. Now, most startup founders that I talk to, I get calls all the time where they're like, TK, we got an inbound offer. What do we do? You've been through the M&A process. Here's the thing. What you need to realize is well before anyone decides to actually buy your company or express interest in your company, or you get prioritized by a corp dev person saying, hey, we should look more into this company, you enter a negotiation conversation. In fact, most of the conversations you're having with these key people are actually negotiations. So The key thing that I always say is approach all these conversations as a negotiation and follow a framework that you like around negotiating. Here's why. Most people think about negotiating and they're like, well, we should probably split the difference, or we should not give anything and we should ask for what we want, ask for something more. Here's the thing. Negotiating is actually a very, very deep discipline. There's a specific way of doing it. And an entire episode could be done on negotiating, and I'll probably do that. If you want that, put it in the comments below and I'll prioritize that on the list. Now, if you are going into this process, one of the books that I recommend is this book called Start With No. I'll include a link to it down below. It's a quick book, it's a quick read, and gives you one framework of many on how to negotiate. This particular book I really love and I recommend to every startup founder that's going through an M&A process or an acquisition process because it's just so powerful and applicable to what you're doing. Once you've read a book like that, you know how to negotiate. And what you need to understand is there's 3 key things you're negotiating when you are having these conversations with these people. The first one is you're negotiating on what the vision for the space is. There's a certain space that you're both in, and there's a certain vision for it, and you're negotiating on who's right, who's wrong, whether it's a commonly shared vision or it's a opposing vision or it's a vision where you're disrupting them or this is just a small feature for them. It's a negotiation. And as you're having these conversations to build these relationships, you're negotiating on what your shared view is. Now, whether you want to sell or not, whether you want to deceive them or not, that's up to you, and that's part of the negotiation game, which is why I always say, learn how to negotiate, read the book, Start With No. I'll include the link below. Once you actually have a shared vision or a differing vision, whichever it is, there's the second negotiation that's always happening in the mind of all of these people. And for you is that bigger company going to build, buy, or partner? Are they going to take what you do and build it themselves as part of their own roadmap? Are they going to go buy you or a competitor? Or are they just going to partner with you because it's not core to what they're doing? Maybe not yet. They're waiting for you to get bigger. They're always going through that decision-making process in their minds. And regardless of whether you want to sell or not, it's always good to partner because you always get a channel into their customer base. But regardless, you're essentially negotiating in every conversation you're having on whether they're going to build, buy, or partner, whether it's now, 5 years from now, or 10 years from now. That's the thing that's constantly going in through their heads. And then finally, the third thing is there a 1 + 1 = 3? This is kind of a code word thing for the M&A people and corp dev people and people that are doing deals. If I were to take your company and combine it with my company, 1 and 1, would we be so great together that we would actually end up with 3? That's the final question that's going through all these key people's minds, in that, look, are we going to save a lot of time and a lot of money and dominate our goals that much faster if we buy these guys? That's a 1 + 1 = 3 scenario. And that is an actual negotiation that's happening as you're having every casual conversation. Now, you can do one of two things. You can either let them have these conversations on their own and come to their own conclusions, or you can build these relationships and influence those conversations. You can negotiate those conversations, which is why I always say that you want to start at least building some of these relationships early so they know you, they know your brand, they know your mission, your vision, and then you can keep executing. Now, let me just pause here for a second. Are you starting to see how, regardless of whether you want to sell your company or not, regardless of whether you're going through a startup acquisition process or not, it is so important to at least have an exit strategy and start to map out who the key players are and build relationships with the key players in the space? Are you starting to see that? If you are, can I just get a yes in the comments below? Because I want others to see how this is a slightly different 2mm adjustment on how you approach this and how you think about this strategically, and makes the biggest difference. So once you've done these two things, there's something magical that happens. You start to create optionality for your company. The reason this is so powerful is, say you're going in for your next funding round. When you're going in for your next funding round, you always have the option on your next update, when you're building these relationships, like, oh, by the way, we're gonna go and raise our Series B, or we're gonna go raise our Series C. Acquirers always know that once you raise the next round, the price of the company almost always goes up. So that's a signal to them to say, oh, are we really interested in these guys? Because we should make a move right now preemptively before they raise the next round. Regardless of whether you're actually going to take the deal or not, when you're fundraising, knowing that there are exit opportunities actually helps give you optionality and more power in every negotiation you're having, both on the fundraising side and on the exit side. So Once you have done these two activities, you start to build inroads, and you're already halfway into this startup acquisition process, which may be surprising to you, was surprising to me, is actually a process that starts way before someone comes in and says, hey, I want to buy your company. Now, there will be a time where they'll come to you, or you'll go to them and you'll say, hey, we're interested in selling the company, or better yet, they're gonna come to you and say, hey, we're really interested in buying you guys. It'll probably be a very casual mention. It may be a kick the tires thing, or it may be very real. Now, here's how you know whether it's real or not. If these three people are starting to get involved, then it's real. If it's just a corp dev person, it may be real, but may not be real. But here's what really happens when it's real. It goes from like, hey, we want to buy you guys, so like, hey, we really want to buy you guys, what would the price be? And there's a whole negotiation tactic for that. And as you go through that, there's essentially three stages that come up in the deal process. The first one is you get a letter of intent. That's an actual written letter or email that says, hey, we want to buy you guys, and here's what we're thinking, and here are the terms. Let's talk through it, and let's see if you're interested. And that's when a whole new level of negotiations start for the deal process. Once you get an LOI and you sign it, then you get into due diligence. Due diligence can take anywhere from 3 weeks to 6 weeks, and maybe even longer, depending on the complexity and size of the deal. Now, this is where it's all hands on deck. When I was going through my last acquisition, we were two people on our side. It was me and our VP of Ops, Leo. And on the other side, there were literally two law firms, an accounting firm, and the actual people part of the company. And then there was a separate group from the PE firm that owned that company. It was completely insane, and we didn't sleep for 3 weeks. Due diligence is a very intense process, and the best thing that you can do is just have everything organized from early on. Have clear financials, have clear metrics, clear customer lists, and there's almost always going to be more things that they ask for that you don't have, but the more you have ready, the better off you're going to be when that time comes, if that time comes. And guess what? It's very similar to things you do for a venture round anyway, so you're better off having clean books and clean documentation of everything that you do. And then finally, once you get through the due diligence process, you get to a close. Now here's a caveat though. You'd be shocked how many deals get into the LOI phase and then start to go through due diligence and then don't ever close. So don't assume anything. You need to be alert. You need to be all hands on deck. And the thing is, when you're going and signing an LOI, if there are other companies, because you're going to be talking to multiple companies, if there are other companies, you're going to have to say, hey, we're going to go a different direction, we're going to take a deal, and you won't be able to talk to anyone else. It's going to be exclusive. So you want to make sure you're super careful in the due diligence process, and you ask for all the information they're going to need in the due diligence process, what they're expecting, how much time they're thinking, so you can be properly prepared before you enter that exclusivity period, and you increase your chances of actually closing the deal. So just because you're in DD doesn't mean you're going to close. In fact, a shocking percentage of deals don't close, so be very careful through this process. And this is why, particularly for DD, what you want to do is not tell everyone that you're getting bought, not tell the company. You want to keep it to a small group, keep it to a small room, and only deal with those people and make sure the core business keeps running. So in summary, stage number 1 is building the relationships. Stage number 2 is actually having those conversations that builds on the vision, identifies whether they're going to build by a partner, looking at why it's 1 + 1 = 3, and they're all negotiations. And you got to read that book on negotiating. And then the 3 is what the deal process is. And by the way, this whole stage, this 3 stages can span the decade or 20 years or 30 years of you building and running the company. It can span that entire time. But it's always important to think about these 3 things because it gives you optionality and it strengthens your strategy for the whole company. Now you know how to navigate this whole startup acquisition process. But what you might not know is how to craft that exit strategy. So I'll include the link to the video below. The other thing you might not know is how to actually craft a strategy for your business. Look, you can't just do these 3 things and expect to get acquired if that's your sole goal. In fact, it's a terrible goal to have. Your best goal to have is to have a sound strategy, an unstoppable strategy for your startup so you build a successful business and a successful company. Successful businesses and successful companies will always have acquirers interested in buying. And so you may not know how to actually craft that strategy, which is why I created my Unstoppable Startup Strategy Guide. if you actually follow the link below, there's a 5-point guide. I walk you through the 5 key areas that you need to think about to build your core strategy. And then there's a 1-page strategy template with actual questions you can answer to actually build out your strategy so you can tether yourself to it. So follow the link below, it's completely free, and it'll teach you how to build out an unstoppable strategy for your company. Also, in my next episode, I'm gonna be digging more into how to grow your startup, how to get into go-to-market and sales. So be sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon, because I'm gonna drop an episode every single Sunday to build out an unstoppable strategy for your life and your startup and your business. If you like this video and got value from it, please hit the like button. It means the world to us. We put a lot of effort into planning out these videos. If you're part of a startup mailing list, startup founder mailing list, or a Slack channel, or a group, please share this video so we can spread our message and spread all these principles that we're sharing on how to build an unstoppable strategy for your startup. And most importantly, if you got value from this, comment below, let us know. It means the world to us. And remember, everyone needs a strategy for their life and their business. With us, yours is going to be unstoppable. I'll see you next week.